In the early 1800s, the most powerful pirate on Earth was not Blackbeard, long dead, nor any captain of the Caribbean. The greatest pirate fleet in human history sailed the South China Sea. And it answered to a woman. She commanded hundreds of ships, tens of thousands of fighters. Coastal towns paid her protection. Imperial fleets feared her. Foreign traders bought her permission just to sail. She wrote a code of laws her crews obeyed on pain of death, ran her empire like a business. And when the most powerful dynasty on Earth could not defeat her, she did something almost no pirate in history ever managed. She negotiated her own surrender, kept her fortune, and walked away free. Her name was Zheng Yi Sao, and she may have commanded more people than any pirate who ever lived. We picture pirates as chaos, drunken crews, buried treasure, every man for himself. But the most successful pirate operation in history was a tightly run enterprise that, at its peak, may have included as many as 70,000 people. A force larger than the navies of most nations of the time. And the person who held it together was not a swashbuckling captain born to the sea. She began life as a woman working on a flower boat in the harbor of Canton, on the margins of Chinese society, with no title, no fleet, and no power. Within a few years, she would marry into a pirate confederation, take it over after her husband's death, and transform a loose alliance of raiders into a maritime empire with its own laws, its own taxes, and its own bureaucracy. To understand how she did it, we have to begin in the lawless waters of the South China coast, where piracy was not a fringe activity. It was an industry. Her early life is half lost to history, which records women like her only at the edges. We know she worked on a flower boat, a floating brothel in the harbor of Canton, in a world that gave her almost nothing. Then, around 1801, she married a powerful pirate named Zheng Yi. This was no ordinary marriage. By several accounts, she negotiated terms, an equal share in his power and his plunder. She was not a captain's wife in the background. She was a partner in the enterprise. Zheng Yi commanded a growing fleet, and together they did something remarkable. They united the quarrelsome, competitive pirate gangs of the South China coast into a single vast confederation. Where there had been rival gangs, there was now a coalition organized into fleets, each under its own colored banner, all bound by agreement. Then, in 1807, Zheng Yi died. In most pirate stories, the death of the leader means collapse, with the strongest captains tearing the whole thing apart. Instead, his widow stepped forward and seized command. She did not inherit the fleet by default. She moved quickly and shrewdly to secure the loyalty of the most powerful captains, including her late husband's adopted son, Cheng Po-tsai, whom she elevated as her chief lieutenant, and in time took as her partner. A woman from a flower boat now commanded the largest pirate force on the planet. What set Zheng Yi Sao apart was not ferocity, it was administration. She understood that a fleet of 70,000 people could not run on fear alone. It needed rules, so she issued a code, a written set of laws that governed her entire confederation. Enforced with brutal consistency, the code was strict, Plunder was not to be pocketed by the man who took it. It was to be registered and distributed according to a fixed system, a share for the individual, the larger share for the common fund of the fleet. Stealing from the treasury or taking private loot could mean death. Deserting or disobeying an order in battle could mean death. The code even governed conduct toward captives. By several accounts, the rules concerning captured women were unusually strict for the time, and violations were punished severely. Again, in the harshest cases, by death. This was not cruelty for its own sake. It was discipline. A predictable, rule-bound organization is a stronger organization. Her code turned a mob of raiders into something closer to an army, where everyone knew the rules, the rewards, and the consequences. It is one of history's great ironies. The largest criminal enterprise of its age may have been more orderly, more regulated, and more disciplined than many of the legitimate governments of its day. As it grew, the Confederation became far more than a raiding operation. It became a shadow government of the sea. Zheng Yi Sao's fleets did not simply attack ships, they taxed them. Along great stretches of the South China coast, no merchant vessel was safe unless it had bought a document of protection from her organization. A pass sold for a fee, guaranteeing safe passage. Refused to pay, and you risked everything. This was protection on an industrial scale. She established posts on shore to collect these fees, to buy supplies, and to sell plunder. Coastal villages provided her fleets with food, ammunition, and recruits, sometimes by force, sometimes by arrangement that looked a great deal like taxation. In effect, she ran a parallel state. It had revenue in the form of protection fees and plunder. It had a military in the form of hundreds of armed junks. It had laws. The Qing dynasty, the rulers of China, found themselves facing not a gang of bandits, but a rival power operating openly off their own coast. They sent their navy to destroy her. It did not go the way they planned. The Qing emperor's government was determined to crush the pirate confederation, and they had every advantage of a great empire. State shipyards, professional admirals, the treasury of a vast realm. And yet, again and again, they failed. Zheng Yi Sao's fleets were larger, faster to gather, and more motivated than the imperial navy sent against them. When the Qing fleets came, the pirates often outmaneuvered or overwhelmed them. In several clashes, imperial warships were captured outright, their guns and crews absorbed into the pirate fleet, making her stronger with every defeat she inflicted. Desperate, the Qing government turned to foreign powers, seeking help from the Portuguese at Macau. By some accounts, looking to British and other Western ships for support against the pirates. Even with outside help, breaking her grip on the sea proved enormously difficult. For a time, it seemed the most powerful dynasty in the world simply could not defeat a confederation of pirates led by a former flower boat worker. But Zheng Yi Sao understood something her enemies did not, that the goal is not to win every battle. The goal is to win the war. Here is where Zheng Yi Sao proved she was a genius, not just a warlord. By 1810, the Confederation was immensely powerful, but it was also under growing pressure. From relentless imperial campaigns, from internal rivalries, and from the simple fact that no outlaw empire lasts forever. A bitter split had opened between her fleet and another powerful pirate leader, weakening the coalition from within. A lesser commander would have fought on until the inevitable defeat, dying with the fleet. She negotiated. When the Qing government, exhausted by years of failure, offered amnesty to pirates who would surrender, she seized the opportunity, and she did it on her own terms. According to the accounts, she walked into negotiations boldly and secured a remarkable deal: a general pardon for the vast majority of her people, permission for many of them to keep their plunder, official positions in the military for some of her commanders, including Cheng Po Tsai, and freedom and wealth for herself. She did not surrender as a defeated criminal begging for mercy. She converted raw power into a settlement, trading a fight she might eventually lose for a peace that let her keep almost everything. It was, perhaps, the most successful retirement in the history of crime. Strip away the cannon smoke, and Zheng Yi Sao's story is a masterclass in building and keeping power. First, she organized what others left to chaos. Her rivals saw piracy as raiding. She saw it as an enterprise. And she built the systems, the code, the treasury, the protection economy that turned a mob into an institution. Structure beat ferocity. Second, she understood incentives. Her code rewarded loyalty and shared plunder fairly. People follow rules when the rules are clear and the rewards are real. Third, she turned defeats into gains, absorbing captured ships and crews until the empire's losses became her gains. And fourth, the rarest skill of all: she knew when to stop. The hardest thing for any powerful person is to walk away at the top, to trade the thrill of more for the security of enough. Most empires, criminal or otherwise, end in collapse because their leaders cannot imagine stopping. Zheng Yi Sao imagined it, planned it, and executed it. She understood that a fortune you cannot keep is not a fortune, and that the smartest victory is the one that lets you walk away alive and rich. Zheng Yi Sao lived out her remaining years, not on the run, but in comfort. By the accounts that survive, she settled in southern China, reportedly ran a gambling house, and lived into her 60s, dying peacefully, an almost unheard of fate for a pirate of her scale. The largest pirate fleet in history dissolved, its captains scattered into legitimate life or quiet retirement, its leader having traded the sword for security. For a long time, Western history barely remembered her. This woman, who out-organized an empire and out-negotiated a dynasty. But she was, by the measure that matters most, one of the most successful leaders of her age. She took the smallest beginning, a woman on a flower boat with no power at all, and built the largest maritime force on Earth, then walked away from it on her own terms, rich and free. Her life is the ultimate proof that power is not about where you start, or even about how hard you can fight. It is about how well you organize, how clearly you think, and whether you have the wisdom to know what victory truly looks like. From the decks of war junks, we return to dry land and to a family that built a different kind of empire. Not with cannon, but with credit, art, and patience, ruling a city and shaping an age. Subscribe to Empire Builders and join us next time for the story of the family that turned banking into a dynasty, the Medici.